Hello, and welcome to the Emmy Awards. I'm your host, Emmy Cardinelli, and this is my podcast where I talk about what I've been watching or rewatching once a week. If this is the first episode of mine that you stumble upon and you enjoy it, please feel free to follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get notified when I upload a new episode. Like and subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube, comment down below, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Full transparency, I am re-recording the beginning of the podcast because my audio was glitchy for the first 5 minutes of the podcast. So if it suddenly changes up 5 minutes in the angle, this episode is going to be me talking about a few shows, timestamps in the description, chapters in the description. So if you're not interested in one of the shows I'm talking about, feel free to skip to the others, timestamps in the description. I'm going to start with Not Suitable for Work, because I talked about that a little bit at the end of my last episode. I'm not upset about the 9 episodes because I think that there was more that there were things that they were missing, or that they didn't succinctly, that it wasn't a good season with the 9 episodes. I just wish it wasn't released in the order that it was released. I don't know if 9 episodes, we needed to do 3 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes. That's kind of really, really fast. Either drop it all on streaming or maybe whatever. I was just a little bit annoyed because I literally talked about it last episode being like, well, maybe we have a few more weeks, and then it ended this week and I didn't even know. Maybe if I knew, I wouldn't be as upset. But I think we ended in a good place with all of the characters. Abby, we ended in a good place. I mentioned this in my last episode, but basically she had left her position that she was working with. She was an assistant to a stylist, and then one of the clients was being kind of flirty with her and wanted her to be his stylist. So then she quit her job, and then he didn't want a stylist anymore, and whatever. Speaking of Abby, she's really stressing me out. So basically, the way we concluded Abby's storyline, I talked about this last episode, but she is a stylist. She left her assistant position because one of the clients, who I feel was being inappropriate with her, was very flirty with her, and then was like, I want you to be my stylist. And I genuinely feel like the way things transpired, I really feel like he just wanted to be her stylist because he just wanted her to be his stylist because he was interested in her, and that was his way of spending time with her. I don't know. I hated that character. Then he doesn't want a stylist anymore. So now she doesn't have any clients or a job, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. So in the last 2 episodes, she comes up with, she finds somebody who she thinks could use a stylist. She pitches herself to his people. They're like, okay, we'll set up a meeting, and she gets this very expensive jacket, $18,000 jacket, from Prada, I think. And basically she tells them she's a stylist, and she gives the actor's name, and so they lend it to her, because I imagine that's how stylists work. It's you're not keeping the stuff that they're lending you, so it's you lend stuff out, and if you bring it back, whatever. So she gets the jacket. She's carrying a bunch of stuff on the subway. She leaves the jacket on the subway, and I was sick. I was sick to my stomach. And the thing is, she literally, she loses the jacket, and then she starts working retail because she's like, well, I need to make money somehow. I owe $18,000 for this jacket. And all things considered, for the amount of money that was, maybe she's just used to dealing with expensive things. But I'm like, girl, you're not going to make that money back working this retail job. Don't you also have to pay rent? I was so stressed out for the amount that was. She didn't seem she was upset about it, but it wasn't and she kept blaming Kel because she got a call from Kel because he was chaperoning a school dance for the school where he's a substitute teacher. And one of the students had a fashion emergency, so he called Abby because anyways. So she keeps blaming Kel, and eventually she's like, yeah, it wasn't Kel's fault. But it did end on a good note for Abby. Her old boss came in because she had heard that Abby was working retail, and she was like, you can have your job back, but like don't ever cross me again. And that did make me happy. I'm glad that Abby is in a secure position. I think when you're a creative person, there's an importance to like doing things on your own and having your own mark. But I think especially with something like being a stylist, or like, I do think there's value in like being somebody's assistant and like learning. And also just when, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but I feel like when you're young and you don't really have like an established name, like having a steady income where you work for a company and like maybe you have benefits, like all of those things matter. Where I think trying to make it on your own as a stylist is like great and everything, but I think not burning those bridges, because that was an issue that like she was trying to be a stylist and then a bunch of people were like, you betrayed her when you were her assistant, so we don't want to work with you. Like I do think with a business that's so reliant on like networking and connecting with people, I do think it's good to like I think that was the right move, and I do think there's like a path eventually where she can be more independent. But I do think like being an assistant, I feel like sometimes, and not in the sense that like, oh, okay, you have to work a hard job and like be miserable. But I do think there's something about like building up to things and experience mattering, and just like the more time you spend doing something, the better you are at it. And I just think like I don't know. I think that hopefully this is, and also she tried it on her own and then like it's anyways. So I'm glad that that's where we leave Abby. Cal, on the other hand, at the beginning of, it was like a 2 episode drop for the finale, and at the beginning, I think of episode 8, maybe it's at the beginning of episode 9. I don't remember what episode. They all blend together because I watched them back to back. But he is in a play now, but he's still the substitute teacher, so he's like leaving early at his like of the he's been leaving early and leaving his class unattended so he can make it to rehearsals on time, trying to balance like, everything. And he gets in trouble for this, and that's why he's chaperoning the dance. And at the dance, the person who got him the job, who he had like, they had previously had a fling and then they started having a fling again when he realized that like Abby wasn't really into him the same way. She sees him with Abby and immediately clocks the fact that he likes Abby. And so she is like, we're done. And I got a permanent replacement. Like, he was a substitute teacher. She got a permanent place. And you can kind of very clearly tell that, like, that was something that, like, she just wasn't doing because Kel needed the job. And, like, but he's upset. He's had to be a teacher. He writes his students. They come to opening night. Very cute, very sweet. I really like the dynamics with the girls in high school and Kel. I think as somebody who watched shows when I was younger where there were weird teacher dynamics, it's nice to see a dynamic where the teacher is like normal and chill, and they literally are like, can you buy us alcohol? And he's like, no, like that's inappropriate. So I like that. And I like the fact that like he clearly liked being at like, I don't know, I think he was good as a teacher. I mean, I'm glad that he's in a play if that's like making him happy and that was his dream. But I also like genuinely love those storylines. So I don't know what's gonna happen next for Kel if there is a season 2. Like, there are a few storylines where I'm like, I don't know where we're going from here. Abby, I think, is in an interesting spot. Kel, I think, is in an interesting spot. Then the AJ, Josh, Davis, let me move on to those. So basically, Davis has had a thing for AJ this entire time. He finds out she's sleeping with her boss, which pissed me off. Not on AJ's part. I don't think you should be sleeping with your employee if you're the boss. And I also think if you're ever in a situation at work where you are like sleeping with your superior and they want to keep it a secret, that to me really rings alarm bells, because it's like, if you genuinely are interested in something, you should like run it through the ethical chains and like make sure you're not doing something wrong. Like, something being a secret to me would automatically like sound an alarm bell, because I'd be like, why don't you want people to know about this? Like, are we doing something wrong? Anyways, so like they have a thing going. Davis is like AJ this whole time, and I really was not a fan of them together. Well, I wasn't a fan of AJ with her boss, obviously, but I also wasn't really rooting for Davis and AJ to get together because I didn't feel like Davis really liked AJ. Like he saw her and in the lobby of the building on her first day, and he was like, "That's the woman of my dreams." Like I didn't feel like he liked her because he knew her, and the pattern we had seen from him was this like romanticization, like romanticizing of these women. And I'm like, I don't know if he's actually like getting to know them as people and liking them. And so I wasn't really rooting for Davis and AJ to be together. He knows now that she's been sleeping with their boss, and he's being kind of cold with her. And so she's like, "What's going on?" She finds out that he knows about whatever, and he's really harsh about it. Like I understand because he's upset, and she doesn't understand the reason he's so upset is because he likes her. But like whatever. Okay, that's already annoying. I'm like, okay. Then Josh, who's at they go to like their investment banking company, whatever. They go to the holiday party. Josh is there. Kel can't go because he is chaperoning the school dance. Or no, it's the opening night of his play. I don't know. He can't be there. So it's Josh, Davis, and AJ are there. And because of that, Josh overhears their boss, not his boss, but like AJ and Davis's boss, mention that he is going to Dale. I don't remember where. Some fancy place where rich people vacation. I don't Nantucket. I think it's Nantucket. I don't remember. Anyway, so he mentions it to AJ, and she's like, I'm not. We're not going together. He got back together with his ex, who whatever. AJ gets mad, understandably, and yet, like again, super understandably. Shitty, like it was so shitty. It was so shitty, and I have to be honest. I hated him from the beginning because the first we meet him, he's an asshole to her at like the coffee cart. Like before she knows that that's her future boss, she like has an altercation with him at the coffee cart because like, and he's such an asshole, and he's like, I'll pay you $40 so you don't take your order or whatever. Like just throwing his money around to like, I just hated him from the beginning, and I hated when that he started sleeping with her. She's like, I thought you said we were exclusive. And he was like, no, I said you make me want to be exclusive. Like, okay, literally shut the fuck up. It's giving West from Summer House when they're like, you had a girlfriend, like you were exclusive with her. And he's like, she thought that we were exclusive. Okay, what the hell does that mean? She thought that you were exclusive, but you just weren't in your brain. So that, anyways, I just hate like technicalities. I'm like, I hate technicalities. Okay. Because if that happened to me, I'd be like, no, I'm sorry that I wasn't clear. But no, these men, fictional or otherwise, don't want to admit that they were being unclear because they want to make it seem like you're in the wrong for like having a negative feeling about something that they were unclear about because, well, you just shouldn't like, you know what I mean? Instead of like apologizing and being like, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I understand how that was misleading. No, it's like you feel like you're crazy for even misunderstanding it when they were like deceiving you. Anyways, so I lost my train of thought. So they break up. The next day, it's like right before New Year's, and he's talking about how this was funny. I did think this was funny. He comes in and he was like, I was skiing with with Jimmy, Mr. Beast, and he wants to make a deal. And I was like, oh my god. I did think the Mr. Beast mention and being like, well, actually, he's Jimmy. That was a little funny. Okay. I hate Mr. Beast. I think he's evil, but like, it would make sense that he would be trying to become richer at an investment bank. Like that's the whole thing they do. Anyways, I literally hate Mr. Beast. Don't even get me started on it. There's one episode where I talked about Survivor 50 where I literally went on like a tangent about how much I hate Mr. Beast for like 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding. Just straight my opinions on Mr. Beast. So I really don't need to do that again for like a 5 second mention of him on this show. But he's like, we need to work through the holidays. And one of their coworkers is like, well, if we can't get a vacation. Can we at least hear about yours? Like how you and your girlfriend. And AJ gets really upset by this. And she is like, I'm taking PTO, and she leaves. Which, mind you, Davis has just found out via text message that from Josh that he broke up with AJ for his ex-girlfriend because Davis hasn't really been talking to AJ. He thinks that he's still mad at her for sleeping with her boss. And Josh had run into AJ like at the laundry machine. Or no, he maybe it was at the when they were doing their laundry. It doesn't matter. At some point, he knew about this trip, and he's like, "Where did you go? Like, come on, I go there all the time with my family." And she's like, "No, I really didn't go. Like, it was with his ex-girlfriend." So Josh knew. So at some point, Davis sends a text message being like, "I don't even remember his name. Like, our boss is such an asshole. Bill's his name. Bill is the worst." And then Josh is like, "Yeah, did AJ tell you that he dumped her for his ex-girlfriend?" So Davis is mad, right? Okay, AJ storms off. She's taking PTO. Good for her. Then he's like, "That was unhinged." Bill says that about AJ. Once the meeting's over, everybody else leaves. Davis is still there. He's like kind of spewing. And then he goes, "You know what? It actually wasn't unhinged, what AJ did. I think it was unhinged of you of sleeping with her." And he gets like really, he closes the door. He's like, "You can't say anything about this." He gets upset. They get into a physical altercation, and he loses his job. And in this moment, I like Davis. Okay. And I will say, I do think we got a little bit more like this episode because at some point AJ is like, "Why isn't Davis talking to me at work? Like he was the only thing that made it fun. Now it's just work." So there is like little hints of like, okay, they do have a rapport. They do have a care for each other. I do think there was a little bit more that's been building where I'm like, okay, I do think that he genuinely likes her as a human beyond this romanticized idea of her. But I don't know. Like, and I do think he's growing as a character. I don't love this arc. At the same time, Josh has made New Year's Eve plans with AJ. They're like gonna watch a movie or something. I don't remember the news. He was gonna watch the news. She was gonna watch a movie. I don't know what they settled on doing. But Davis goes to AJ's apartment first, and then mentions that because she got sent a video of them getting into a fight. So then she's like, "Why did you beat up Bill?" And they kiss, and it's great. And then Josh sees her, and clearly he likes her, and whatever. I don't really. Do I think if there is a second season, it'll be interesting to see the Davis AJ dynamic. Yes, I do think that being in a relationship that was built on friendship first and like whatever, I do think that there could be something interesting there, and I am not opposed to seeing it develop. I do like AJ and Josh more. I also just happen to like Josh more as a character, and I think AJ needs somebody who's not an investment banker. But Davis also is like not the same kind of investment banker that Bill was. Like he doesn't, he's different. He's a little bit, anyways. I mean, now he's not an investment banker. What's he gonna do? I don't know. Josh, meanwhile, is like trying to he's been cut off by his dad because his dad was an asshole. And then now his dad in protest is like cutting him off. So he's trying to figure out how to spend less money. That's a big part of his arc. And then he manages his boss, who's like a news anchor, really, really wants to do some kind of like New Year's Eve show. So he figures out a way to get whatever, and it's great, and he saves the day because at some point his boss is like, I don't know how to contribute to this, so he writes something and it's on the teleprompter, and like it all works out great. He's doing great, and then he's kind of crushed by the sight of AJ and Davis kissing, and that's kind of where we leave off. I'm excited. I don't know if there is going to be a season 2. I wish there had been at least 10 episodes, or maybe it had been paced differently. I will say, all things considered, I think the episodes they dropped like worked well together. Like I don't feel like 1 week left me like I don't feel like I was like, okay, those story, like I don't know. I think it was paced well. The episodes they decided to release in the order they decided to release them, but I'm still against the releasing process regardless. But let me move on to Love Island. I'm so locked into Love Island right now. I'm so locked in. Okay, I said in my last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, I don't remember. I think it was in my last episode. I do not get invested in couples on Love Island. I don't like it's not something that really happens for me. Granted, I've only watched 2 seasons live. Last season was my first season watching in real time, and then the season. So like I haven't been following many seasons, and I don't think last season was particularly like a very moving. I have seen like bits and pieces of six, but like not while it was airing. I knew who was still together when I watched little bits and pieces of six. I haven't seen the whole thing, but like I haven't watched. This is only my second season of Love Island, watching it in real time. And so that obviously skews my perspective. But I think, and I've said this before, there's something about the Love Island format that I've had a hard time like really having any kind of emotional connection to a dynamic. I really like the women, like I grow very fond of the women, but I have yet to like a man enough to like want him to be, or like a dynamic enough to like really root for them to be together. That has all changed. Okay. After the Costa More episodes, I am on the ship of Bryce and Trinity. Okay. I am a Brinity stan. I see the vision. I understand it. Here's the thing. I don't feel like I've always loved Trinity from the beginning. And I of all the men, Bryce hadn't done anything that really pissed me off, besides his proximity to Zach, who really pisses me off. But like Bryce, I thought he was fine, and the fact that he was with Trinity, like up to some points. But the way that he's moved in Casa, and the way that he's so locked in on Trinity, like I'm in it now. Like I think that is has this has made me realize that a big disconnect for me has been that the couples, I haven't really felt like the guys have been like that down bad or that in it or that like locked in. The seasons I've watched, like the guys have been like open to exploring, or even if they like somebody, it's like, and again, I understand the only season I watched was like last season in real time. So like I understand, okay, that I don't understand, you know. But I hadn't been moved. I hadn't been moved yet because I didn't want to get attached because I was like, Casa More was gonna happen, and then I didn't want to get attached. I am so attached now. And I think the fact that they both very clearly only want to be with each other and that they're locked in makes me feel comfortable shipping, because I'm like, because I also, when I'm watching these shows, I'm always watching them like at the end of the day, as much as I ship people and I want to root for people to be a couple, at the end of the day, people's intimate personal relationships are like not up to me. Like that I think is a big reason that I have trouble shipping people from like reality TV or even like parasocially, because I watched The Bachelor a lot growing up, like from the time I was like in high school, like 16, I don't know what age I was, but like, you know, about a decade I've been watching reality TV, dating shows specifically. And I remember getting attached to couples from The Bachelor and then genuinely being really sad when they broke up. And I think as I got older and as I have had more interpersonal relationships, not romantic, granted, but like I've worked a lot in therapy on myself and emotional regulation and being a better communicator and all of these things that I do think would factor into a romantic relationship if I were to be in one. The more I've just grown as a person and I've lived my life and I've like had dynamics with people, I've just realized that like that's so deeply personal and I don't know the ins and outs of somebody's relationship just because I think they're cute together. I see their happy moments. Like I don't know people's interpersonal lives, and I don't want to like ship people like they're a fictional couple and like make up a version of them that isn't real. So I just struggle to ship people because I'm like, at the end of the day, I can love this, but if that's not the relationship that's serving you, then like I just want you to be happy. So, anyways, I've had a hard time really shipping or caring about any couple on Love Island. But they are so clearly locked in. And I love Trinity. She's like one of my favorites. And I genuinely, I've said this many times, but for me, when it comes to Love Island for the men, I've either been indifferent towards them or I've disliked them. So me being indifferent towards Bryce and really not having any negative feelings towards him was a positive. Okay. Because a lot of these men I have very negative feelings about. I didn't have any negative feelings about him, and the fact that he is just so like sure and locked in on what he wants. Like I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them. I and Casa. I don't care about Casa anymore. Get them back together, okay? And I do think the reunion's going to be very beautiful. And like I genuinely wish them the best. And I do think there's something to be said if you're on Love Island of like you have distance and that makes the heart grow fonder. And I also just really like the way Bryce like has been handling things and like some of the men are so disrespectful in their comparisons to the Casa women versus the women that they've been with. Bryce is so like respectful and clear that like he it's nothing against these women. They're all great. They all have their own like unique things, but they're just not the person who wants like and I think that's like, when he's talking about how like they just he was telling a joke and like she didn't laugh and she didn't get it and Trinity would have laughed and like it and I just I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them. What can I say? I'm rooting for them. I'm like really, really on the ship now. Okay. I'm really realizing that one of the big things that hinders me from getting attached to couples on Love Island is that I have yet to really feel like a man is particularly locked in with his partner on any of the seasons that I've only seen 2 seasons, but like last season, I can't remember anybody who I genuinely felt like, no, he doesn't want to explore anybody else or he's not gonna like maybe he likes the person he's with, but like he wants to play Love Island more. He's here to just get as many experiences as he can. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay. I'm not trying to vilify people who go on Love Island and want to just hook up and have fun. Okay. Everybody's on their own journey. I'm just saying I don't want to root for you and get parasocially attached to the person you're coupled up with if that's what you're there for. So that I think is a big like boundary that I've had because I'm like, I haven't felt like genuinely there's a connection where I'm like, okay, no, I feel like you guys genuinely like each other and you want like I don't know. I'm really in it now. And again, I've loved Trinity this whole time. But let me move on to stuff that isn't Trinity and Bryce as much as I don't want to. So the Costa Amor genuinely the way it was executed was so good. Like it was so smart because basically they're like, we're doing the heart rate challenge. They all get dressed up in costume. Then the men get whisked away to Casa. And the women come down and there's like a big present. The present opens and it's a screen. And it's the men in Casa with the women coming in and doing all the dances and such at Casa while the women watch. And this was like executed so well, genuinely, for like maximum chaos. Also, some of the men were like, it was genuinely, it was very gross to watch. It was very, very gross to watch the way they kind of like hyped each other up to like it was so gross to watch. At this point, I was like, I don't like any of them. Bryce won me over because he, had a heart after the fact. And there is something to be said about people's boundaries in challenges versus outside of challenges. So I think Bryce maybe wanting to be open to the women at first in the challenge versus then when he actually spoke to them being like, well, on a real human level when we're having a conversation, I'm not interested in you and it's not clicking the way it does with Trinity. Obviously, I whatever. And she was upset, but then she also explored but after exploring, she's like, I'm not like my head is still with Bryce. Like I think they both did what they needed to do and hopefully they'll come back stronger than ever. But anyways, I really hated the first it was such good TV, but I was also so enraged at the men. I can't what the fuck is his name? I don't I can't remember their names. Can't remember their names. And honestly, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve me knowing their names. But one of the guys is like I really only know the women. What the hell are anyways? Was it Casey who was like, no, I don't think it was Casey. Maybe it was Casey. Maybe it was I don't remember. But one of the guys is literally like, I'm going home with somebody else. So rude. They're so rude. At some point, Casey literally says that it's then in the next episode they do like a Villa versus Casa challenge where like very arbitrary. They have to raise a thermometer. Who's count like it, whatever. The heart rate challenge. At least you can like be like, we're tracking your heart rates, right? Like I don't. This was so arbitrary. But anyways, when they're doing that, like the villa keeps winning, and was it Casey? I think it was Casey. I'm sorry if it wasn't Casey. But one of the guys, I know, I'm pretty sure it was Casey, is like they're giving the men in the villa what we should have been getting this whole time. Excuse you? I was just I'm so mad at a majority of the men. Bryce is really my saving grace. Sincere is kind of like very confusing because he seems like he's talking about how he I don't know. He's a liar. So and at the end of the day, I just don't think Melanie should be with him. I don't think Melanie should be with him. Even like the new bombshell, it was like 12 men and then they whittled it down to 6. Like, okay. I don't dislike the 6 that they chose. There was one guy who I like more than the others. Mel starts pursuing this guy named Corey, and then Corey's like, "Yeah, Sincere has been being honest with you," and then the episode ends. The latest episode, I'm pretty sure, yeah, because the episode before that, the Casa episode, ended with Bryce longingly being like, "These women are Trinity," and Interco with Trinity making out with one of the guys from Casa, and it was very dramatic. The next episode ended with Melanie and Sincere each talking about each other with the person that they're with now, and Olivia Rodrigo's song "Logical" was playing. So I don't know. I don't know. The only person that I genuinely want to stick around of the men is Bryce. That's just my truth. I don't know what's gonna happen from here. Bryce and Trinity will be reunited. I don't know how the other couples are gonna shake out because I do think some of them like the people they're with in Casa more than they like their current partners. But I don't know if they all do. Like Sincere, I think is like open to it, but I don't know if he would be. He's just a very confusing person because I don't feel like a week ago I would have been like, no, I think he's gonna go back to Melanie, and then he did. So I genuinely don't know, but I feel like if Sincere, I feel like Sincere is gonna go back to Melanie because I think he's gonna be thinking about it of like, I mean, actually, I said that I was gonna say he's gonna be thinking about what would look best, and but I don't even know if Sincere realizes that they're on. I I don't know. I don't understand Sincere. I really don't. I really don't. He's a very confusing guy. He's a very confusing guy whose name is so unserious to me. But yeah, Bryce and Trinity are the couple that I'm most invested in. Zach and Kata, at this point, I I hate Zach. I'm so over Zach. I I'm so over Casey. I liked him at first, okay, and then he was just way too rude to Anaya, and he thinks he's like the shit now that he's uh, like hooking up with somebody else in Casa. Like he literally talked about like his stocks going up in the episode before they went to Casa. He was talking about how like he wants to explore things and like I just hated the way he was approaching things. Like he thinks I don't know. I really didn't like. I'm really upset with Casey. Wait, I do remember who Anaya is. I like who Anaya is with. So hopefully Casey leaves and Anaya is coupled up with the new guy whose name I don't remember. I'm so sorry, but I liked him, and so I hope Casey leaves soon, and I hope Bryce and Trinity win. I will be voting. I don't really care about anybody else. I really like Melanie. I really like Melanie. Okay, I have a soft spot for Melanie. I just really am so tired of the Sincere of it all. I really am, but I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully Corey can be solid enough. The thing about Melanie is I feel like she has a bit of like the sunken cost fallacy. Like I feel like she's like so invested. I mean, I don't know because I do think she was really pissed off at the watching Casa. But like the thing is, he's done. He. I don't know what's gonna happen with Melanie and Sincere. I really don't. I don't want her to be with him. I want Sincere gone. I want Casey gone. I want Zach gone. I want Caleb gone. I want all of the guys gone except Bryce. That's my truth. And if there's somebody else who I didn't mention, I don't remember him, so I don't care about him, and I would be fine with him leaving as well. Okay, that's my truth. I really don't. Not that I really like many of like I like the Casa guy who's paired up with Anaya, whose name I literally don't remember. And then I like what Corey's doing about being like sincere, is not being honest with you. I like the moves he's making, but I don't know enough about him to like him yet. So I don't really know. I don't know. I'll see how the next few episodes shake out. At least I have something to tune in for now. Okay. Not that I didn't before because I was interested in like the discourse, but I'm genuinely so locked in parasocially on Bryce and Trinity as a couple that like I don't care how boring the episode is. I'm gonna be scouring it for like crumbs. Like I'm watching an episode of Yellow Jackets and I'm like waiting for Lottie and Nat to interact. There was literally one episode of Yellow Jackets where Ty was like talking about people and she goes, Lottie, Nat, and I was like, Lottie, Nat, crumbs. That's gonna be me with Bryce and Trinity until the season ends. Like, thank God I have them to keep me going. I don't really know. I was already irritated with a lot of the men, and then Casa made me more irritated, and then it also like the grew a fondness. So it's been good and bad, but we'll see how it shakes out. Also, there's a racist girl from Casa More. I think she's gone now. Hopefully, she's been ejected, but she was there way too long. Let me move on. I've been in terms of Survivor seasons. I mentioned in my last episode that I was watching South Pacific. I'm struggling to get through it. I will finish it because the parts I like, I like. I'm in a weird headspace where I kind of like don't. And I do think if it was a good, like a slightly better season, maybe I'd be more. I really hate Redemption Island. Like every time Redemption Island, like I'm so tired of it that I think it's really. I think I gotta chug along and get to the part where that's over and I'll really like it. But the episode I literally just watched, which I think was episode 5 or 6, like I'm really getting through the season a lot slower than I have seasons past. They literally voted out Ozzy because they were like, he is going to just win himself back in and then will merge very soon after or something along those lines. I haven't seen it play out yet, so I don't know. By the time I record my next episode, I will have seen the outcome of that. But I don't know. The Redemption Island's really getting me down. I like the characters, but it's not my favorite season that I've watched. So I don't know. I've also been in a very interesting mood where I'm like, I love Survivor, but I've really been in the mood to watch like scripted TV when I'm not watching Love Island. So I think that's been like a big thing where I'm like, I don't want to watch people play a game right now. So I'm getting through the seasons slower. I am rewatching Heroes Villains because, as I've mentioned many, many times on this podcast, I am a member of the AmeriCorey Patreon and they're watching Heroes Villains. And it's been so fun to watch Heroes Villains, like rewatch it knowing the winner, because when I watched it the first time earlier this year, I didn't know who won because if I don't go into a season knowing who wins, I try my best to not like know who wins. At some point I can kind of figure things out because like I was watching China and I didn't know who won that season. But we got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure process of elimination, Todd wins because I know that Courtney wasn't a winner when she went on Heroes Villains. At some point, I was like, I think Courtney goes far because I remember her saying during Heroes Villains that she always wanted to be on the jury. She never got to be on the jury. So I was like, okay, that either means she goes home really early or she's in the final 3. So when we made it like into the jury, I was like, okay, so she's going to the final 3. And then Amanda was also like towards the end, and I'm like, well, I know she didn't win. So like a process of elimination towards the end of seasons, when I know like who's a winner, who's not a winner, I can like figure things out. But like I try to go into seasons if I don't know the winner unspoiled. So I didn't know who won Heroes Villains, and I went into it trying my best not to get spoiled. So I didn't know Sandra won. I didn't know it was her second time winning. So I had fun watching her, and I had watched Pearl Island, and she played a lot more actively in Heroes Villains than she did Pearl Island, but I hadn't like, I just hadn't I didn't watch it knowing the outcome, and watching it knowing that she's the winner, like, makes it so much more satisfying watching her, like, maneuver things and, like, set it up so coach goes home, and, like, that tribal was so good, and Heroes Villains is just such a good season because of the interpersonal drama is so good, the game's also good, the challenges like, it's genuinely, like, the best season of Survivor I've watched. Obviously, I haven't watched many, but even rewatching it when I just watched it for the first time a few months ago, is so fun and enjoyable, and I'm, like, locked in a way that I just don't feel for South Pacific, even though I don't know who wins or anything that's going on there. I know who doesn't win, and I know Coach makes it to the final three. I couldn't tell you anything else about the season. I know Cochran goes home like eighth or something because I started watching Second Chances, and then I was like, oh wait, I want to watch his first season before I watch that. And I think they said in the introduction that he went home eighth. So anyways, so like I know some stuff, but I try not to know the winner. It's so fun watching it knowing she wins. It's so fun watching. But even it's such a good season. It's such a good season. Banana etiquette. It's like banger after banger after banger. All of the idol plays. d- Even Russell watching the season knowing he doesn't win, so annoying because I didn't think he was gonna win because he seemed so unlikable. But I really watched like I didn't know the outcome, so I didn't know how long he was gonna be there. I didn't know if he was gonna win. I didn't know anything about the trajectory. It's so much more satisfying to watching, like knowing how things play out, watching the fact that literally I don't remember if I've already passed it or if it happens later, but at some point they literally are like, "Oh no, it's right after they've merged." Um and Sandra's kind of still on the outs of the villains. But they haven't fully like because she's trying to go after Russell and to tell the heroes, hey, don't trust Russell. They don't believe Sandra. They want to trust JT over, or they want to trust Russell over Sandra. But at the tribal, like I think Russell literally like is like I would take her to the end because I anybody could win against her. Something like super condescending that is like so satisfying to rewatch, knowing that she wins against him. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm really enjoying rewatching Heroes Villains, knowing the winner. There's a fun to trying to guess the winner, and there's also joy in like knowing and then being able to figure it out. I don't know. I think for any seasons going forward, even though spoilers can be out there, I would want to not be spoiled. I really like watching a season not knowing who wins. I really, really like that. It's so fun. It's so fun. Um, Especially because I feel like I've watched enough seasons going into it knowing who wins, and then like I feel like it's been pretty evenly split in the seasons I watched knowing who the winner is, and then seasons I watched not knowing who the winner is. And I think that's helping me because I have done a fairly good job at guessing the winners based off of stuff. I also like when I was watching Jeremy's season where he won, I guessed that he won like a little bit into watching because I was like, one, he's getting a good edit, but also I did have the knowledge that he'd been on Traders, and the only people who had been on Traders, like the majority of the ones I could think of, were either iconic players like Suri, who had come back many times and like is a legend, or had won. So I'm like, I feel like Jeremy, if he's only played like twice, maybe he's played three times, I don't know. But like Jeremy, I felt like he had to be a winner to be like, I don't know. So there were context clues. But I've been like Todd from China. Again, when I got to a certain point, I knew who of the remaining people didn't win. But I guessed that he was going to win like halfway into the season just based off of like the edit he was getting. So I feel like watching seasons knowing who wins and then watching seasons not knowing who wins, I feel like I have gotten a good grasp on like how, and I'm sure every season's different. I've only watched like a fraction of the amount of seasons there are, but I feel like I have a good grasp on like figuring out who the winners are going into the season. I will say, watching Heroes Villains the first time, I don't think I would have guessed that Sandra won. At least not like early on. She's kind of a slower build, but she does have some really good moments. And I think the moment where I would have been like, okay, I think maybe Sandra makes it to the end and she like this is her second time winning. I think when she's like post merge really trying to flip, the way she handles that whole thing is like so well done because she's like reasoning with the heroes, but when she realizes that they're not listening to her, she doesn't like throw herself under the bus to save them. Like she goes with her previous alliance to save herself. Like she doesn't flip when she doesn't need to flip. She's trying to flip, but she's like, I'm not, if I don't have the numbers, I'm not going to flip. So like she handles the whole situation really well because she's like telling them like, no, like you can't trust Russell. I'm on the out to the villain tribe. Like we have the number. And then I can't even remember her name, but she really pissed me off. The one person from the heroes who like tries to work with Russell and is kind of like the reason their plan is foiled when it's like, why are you trusting Russell? Whatever. But all that being said, I think the way that she very successfully maneuvered the position she was in to like push for things to change because she was on the bottom of the villain. So like if she didn't do something, she would have been, even if they got down to the end of the villains, she would have been the first villain to go. So she did a really good job, like not burning that bridge too soon, and like not turning against them when they weren't gonna succeed. Um, she did a good job like navigating both sides where like the heroes were trusting her and she was trying with them, but she wasn't trying so hard that she was implicating herself. Like when she needed to, she remained with her alliance. It was just so well done. It was I'm such a big Sandra fan. I think she's underrated. Like I know she's a legend, but I feel like there are flashier players who like get more praise than her. And I think there's something really impressive about the first two times you play, you win both. Like that's amazing. It takes some iconic players many times to win. And I don't think you need to be a winner to be an iconic or phenomenal player. But I think there's something really, really like cool about you play twice and both times like well she's played since, but like her first two times she and the second time she won, it wasn't like on an all winner season. Like they could have gotten the winners out. They could have at the end not voted. I mean, I don't know, not really, because it was either her Parvati. I'm like, would they have voted for Russell over Parvati? Like it was going to be a winner, probably like a two-time winner, regardless. But like I also think in watching different eras of Survivor, I think it's impressive to have played in the era that she did originally, and it was a very different vibe. And Heroes Villains isn't like it's not like she played in 50 and like things are completely different now. A lot of the things hadn't changed yet. They were still doing themes. It wasn't like all on Fiji. Like there were still things that were like not different, but like idols didn't exist the first time she played. So like I think there's something really skilled about the fact that her game evolved, and she did such a like I'm such a big fan of Sandra. I think it's so iconic to win your first time playing, and then the second time you play as the previous winner, you win again. That's so cool. That's so cool. She's an icon to me. What can I say? But yeah, South Pacific, I'm enjoying it. As soon as Redemption Island over, I just okay because here's the thing as soon as somebody gets eliminated, I'm just like, well, I don't really care. Like, are you going? Are you not? And then by the time the stupid little competition happens where somebody gets eliminated, I'm over the people there anyway. I don't care. I'm like, Are you leaving or not? And like maybe I just haven't been attached to any of the people who've left, but I'm just like, I really don't care. I really don't care. Are you leaving or are you coming back? And then the fuck of it all. I think it's like if it was like every time they did a showdown, whoever won went back to their tribe, like maybe I would feel a little bit more. But it's like, okay, somebody wins and then you got voted out, you're just on an island all alone. I don't care about you. Yeah, narratively, I think it does a disservice to like a cohesive narrative because I'm like, I'm not invested in the people who've been eliminated. Okay. I don't care about them. I don't care about them. The competitions to get back in, not super compelling, especially because you get back in and then you're just not going home. You just go back to your stupid island all by yourself. I hate it. I hate Redemption Island. Okay. I really hope they never bring something like that back. It literally pisses me off so much. Don't even get me started. I say that, but I do really want to watch Rick Devens this season, which had a similar mechanic, the Edge of Extinction. I don't know. I just hate. See, I hate situations where you're like back in, or you're. I hate that. I hate that. To me, the most impressive thing you can do on a show like this is not get voted out. Okay, like competition wins are great, and obviously, Big Brother and Survivor are different in that like there's no head of household. Okay, but I think being a head of household, winning that competition, and then leading and nominating people, and like how you navigate the dynamics of like your alliance or like balancing alliances or like I think there's something very interesting about like that mechanic in a show like Big Brother where it's like, yes, at the end of the day, the most impressive thing you can do is not get voted out. But I do think that a good Big Brother player utilizes the power they have in a head of household, in a veto, to maneuver themselves and build to get themselves further in the game. Anyways, but like in a game like Survivor, besides like winning individual immunity and saving yourself, or you can, if you find an idol, or you can, I've yet to see a season. In theory, you can give your individual immunity to somebody else, I believe. I've yet to see that happen to my recollection. I don't know how often that happens. I think it's not as whatever strategic. I think playing your idol on somebody or like trusting somebody with an idol or like those are things, but it's like there's something different about like the game mechanics of like a veto versus like it's a different game, right? And so in a game like Big Brother, I do think there is something very impressive about having a good HOH, having an HOH that like sets you up very well. So then when somebody else is HOH, you're not in danger, right? But in a game like Survivor, I think like the most important thing you can do is not get voted out. Like that is the most impressive thing you can do. So it's like once you've already been voted out, I don't really care about you. I really don't. I really don't. I'm sorry. But anyways, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on Survivor. Other shows. I recently started watching. I recently started watching Sex and the City. I have to be honest. I was inspired by Olivia Rodrigo. Okay, she's a big fan. I've never watched past season one, so I started Sex in the City. I'd already watched season one. I did rewatch season one, and then you know, just because I am somebody who like I have this issue. Even when I'm rewatching something, I don't like starting in the middle of things. Okay, I need to. It's taken everything in me. If Survivor wasn't like a I'm not going to start from Survivor season one. Okay, I don't need like I want to watch the highlights. Okay, there are 50 seasons. I'm not that invested. But when I'm watching like a fictional show, I don't want to start from like season two, even if I have one seen season one, because it was years ago and I don't really remember. So I started watching Sex in the City. Okay, I wanted to understand Olivia Rodrigo more, and I'm enjoying it. I'm only on season two. I'm almost done with season two though. The episodes are like very digestible in length. I'm really not used to watching shows that are like 30 minutes long. So I just breeze through them because I'm like I watched like 4 episodes. That's like 2 episodes of a normal show. So I'm getting through it like fairly easily. So far I feel like I have very boring takes. I feel like I love Charlotte. Charlotte's my favorite. I like I like most of them. Okay, even Carrie, I think is a very interesting character. I don't really like her, but I think she's an interesting character. Like if she was my friend, I don't know if I'd want to be friends with her if she was a real person, but I think she's a very interesting character. Okay. I really like Charlotte, but I'm watching the show and I'm like, I feel like on some level I have to be honest, I feel like I'm Miranda. I feel like I'm Miranda. Like the way she hates men, I feel like that's low key me. Like at some point she when she meets Steve, he's like, What do you have against men? Like I'm just trying to get to know you." I feel like if I was trying to date, I would be more like Miranda, but in my heart, in like I like in my heart is like is a Charlotte, like the way she approaches love and romanticizes things. Like that's how I feel like if I were to try dating, I would have a hard time because I feel like I have two very opposing, like versions of how I see relationships, okay? Because I do have that like longing, romanticized, like sweep you off your feet, beautiful, like cinematic. Like I love television, I love movies. I love, so I have that version. Like I do think if I really liked somebody, I would get into like the Olivia Rodrigo territory when I'm imagining us getting married and like, but I think there's another version of me the main reason that I haven't pursued a relationship is because I'm like, well, at the end of the day, a relationship, romantic relationship, it's about like the dynamics, it's about communication, it's about making space and time for somebody in your life and then making like I feel like if I were to or even like the reason I really hate dating apps is because people will like it's always men. Like let me be honest, it's always the men. They'll like you barely have a conversation with them and they're talking to you like I'm like, you don't even know me. You don't even know me, and you're like, you're so beautiful. Or like, one of my least favorite things, and I haven't used a dating app in a long time, but I have pictures of me and my cats. I've literally had men as their like opening line being like, you would be a great mother the way that you're holding that cat. What the fuck are you talking about? You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about me. I could be the worst person on earth. What do you mean I would be a good mother? You don't know me. I just don't I don't know. I don't like I feel like there's a part of me that has that like romantic ideal of like, oh my god, I'll meet somebody and it will like connect and it'll be cinematic and beautiful and like I crave being loved in that way, okay? But then there's a logical side of me that's like, Emmy, literally this is so stupid. These people don't like I don't know. I feel like I would have such a hard time dating because I feel like if I liked somebody, I would start having that feeling. And then I'd be like, I mean, you don't even know this person. You don't know this person. This person doesn't know you. What are you talking about? Like, I feel like I would have a hard time. And the real reason I'm not pursuing dating, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently, because I just turned 27 and whatever. I'm like, I'll blink and I'll be 30 and I've never been in a relationship. And there's people all the time who post on that and they're like, I'm 20, I'm 30, and I've never been in a relationship. And and people like post about how they want to be in relationships and like whatever. And it's not that I don't. Again, I do love and I think romance is so beautiful and I get invested and I like want somebody to want me the way Bryce wants Trinity and Trinity wants Bryce. And like I want that too. Okay. I want that too. But I don't care enough about it to pursue it over like the other thing. Like I have so much going on. I'm like I don't like you know what I mean. So, but I've just been thinking about this a lot because I'm like I don't crave it enough that I would like put the energy into doing it. I don't really know. I also don't want to have kids, so I'm not thinking about like a biological clock. I'm like if I never am in a relationship and then I meet the love of my life when I'm 50 or 60, like that's fine with me. Like I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I feel about like romantic relationships. But okay, I went on that tangent because I was like, I feel like if I had watched Sex in the City when I was in college, I feel like I would relate more to Charlotte because that is, I feel like, how my most idealized, like perfect, version. Like that is how I feel like my heart views relationships. But I feel like I'm very logical when it comes to just dynamics and the reality of life and like I feel like right now I'm too logical to like romanticize something. I'm like, okay, Or there is there time? I have a life. I have a life that I built for myself. I have cats. I have, you know, it's like I'm gonna factor somebody into that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk more about Sex and the City next week. I wanted to talk about the Real Housewives of Rhode Island, okay? And I will talk about that next episode. I just haven't watched the reunion yet. And by the time the next time I record, both parts of the reunion will be out. So once both parts of the reunion of the Real Housewives of Rhode Island are out, I'll talk about the season as a whole, including the reunion. But that's all I have to say for now. I hope you have a great week. You'll hear from me next week. Comment down below any shows that you want to hear my thoughts on. Do you want me to talk about Sex in the City? Is that boring? I know the show's like a million years old. Okay, it's not that old, but you know what I mean. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. You'll hear from me next week.